Hey guys, I'm going to give you a couple of tips on growing your own sweet potato plants from sweet potatoes. So yeah, it's worked quite well for me this year, so I'll show you some tips. These sweet potatoes were actually harvested from my plants that I got last year. The variety is called Murasaki, and I'll show you now just a quick picture of what they looked like when they came out of the ground. They're such a lovely pink colour. And they're actually a white fleshed sweet potato, but they are incredibly tasty. So yeah, so these are sweet potatoes from my harvest last year, but you could use sweet potatoes from the shops if you wanted to. Okay guys, so here's the method that I've opted for this year in terms of sprouting my sweet potatoes. So unlike normal potatoes, which you can just plant a potato and it will sprout a new plant and then produce new tubers from that plant, you can't really do the same with sweet potatoes. I'm not too sure why. I suspect it has something to do with maybe the tubers putting all of that energy into flowering instead of actually producing new tubers. So what you have to do is do it slightly differently. One way of doing that is you half bury your sweet potatoes in just a mix of compost. I've got compost and a bit of perlite or something. And then I've just got it in this, like, I don't know what it is, like a little pie tray or something, like a apple pie tray. It hasn't got holes in the bottom, but it wouldn't matter too much if you did, as long as it was, like, you know, placed on a tray or something like that, so the water wouldn't leak everywhere. Because you have to do this in the UK at least inside, unless you want to start them really late, but I suggest that you get them going as early as you can. So these sweet potatoes were buried like this, half in, half out of the soil, and they were just put on my windowsill, and they've been there for several months. These were probably planted in February, maybe, and then eventually, you know, just keep the compost nice and sort of moist, and yeah, eventually it puts out all these little shoots, which people refer to as sweet potato slips. And the idea is that when the slips get to a certain size, so like this big one here is probably a good size, you then you just gently twist them off of the tubers, and then you plant those slips in some compost, and then you let them root. So it would take a few weeks for them to root. I'll just quickly show you how you do that. So you can see here, if I just lift up this slip, it just gently pulls the sweet potato out, and you can see that there are some roots under there that the tuber has put into the compost, which has helped draw up all of that moisture and the nutrients. And all you do is you just gently, when it gets to a good size like this one, you just gently twist the sweet potato slip, and sort of rotate it until it snaps off. Most of the time when it snaps off, you'll have a sweet potato slip that doesn't have any roots on it. That's completely fine. You then just plant that in some compost, and it should root fairly quickly in warm weather. Depends where you're keeping them. Sometimes, like the one I just showed you, you do find roots already on the sweet potato slip, and that's fine as well. You just do the same thing. And then, yeah, you just pot them up, and once they've rooted, like these ones here, you just end up with your brand new sweet potato plant, which you then plant out. Although I'd wait for a while until they get a little bit bigger than this, just because of slugs and snails and things, if you can keep them protected. And although when you're sprouting the sweet potato slips, it's best to do that, in the UK at least, inside on a windowsill or something like that. Once they really get going, like this one here or this one here, it is best if you can get them outside if the weather's warm enough and you have somewhere protected, because there's just a lot more light. So yeah, anyway, that's basically it. And then from there, you just plant them out in, you know, in your garden, your allotment, wherever you are intending to put them, and they should produce new sweet potato tubers. And then you do the same thing, you just save a few of those for next year and do the same process, and you have hopefully an everlasting supply of sweet potatoes. So there we have it, guys. Hopefully you can turn your sweet potato tubers from the shop or from last year's harvest into brand new plants and get a really good harvest this year. So thanks so much for watching, and yeah, if you like the video, please give me a thumbs up, and yeah, I'll speak to you very soon.